We are recording. We're not live yet, but welcome, guys, obviously, to our second sort of Sync Focus Zoom call for the year. And obviously, very grateful to have you guys here. It's really cool to see you guys taking this seriously. It's really cool to see many of you guys putting your tracks up on the progress chart and showing your dedication to it physically by actually uploading that and keeping with that. That's really cool. Want to see some more. I definitely saw some empty columns and rows, but that's okay. Maybe this will be a little wake up call for a few of you that just haven't done it yet. But it's going to be a great session. We're going to talk about reference tracks, and then we're definitely going to talk about all the ways that we can analyze them and make sure that we are certainly getting the most bang for our buck as we use them. And of course, stay out of legal issues, copyright issues, and all that good stuff. So let me go ahead and start streaming here to YouTube. And we are live on YouTube. So welcome everybody officially to our second Zoom call here, Zoom call sort of master gathering here within Sync Academy. And definitely what I'm doing is broadcasting this to my YouTube audience as well. I do apologize. I'm a little stuffed up. I was battling a cold over the weekend. I'm definitely on the mend, feeling way better. Energy's fine, but obviously just got a little bit of a stuffed up nose still. So sorry about that. But it's going to be a great session today because today we're going to talk about reference tracks and how important it is to use them and why I am recommending every single person watching this, either if you're on the Zoom call with us in Sync Academy or if you're just watching this on YouTube, you must use reference tracks. And I'll explain, hopefully make a compelling case why starting today, moving forward for the rest of the year, you should have reference tracks. So good morning. Welcome, everybody. Hopefully you got your coffee or your Monster Energy drink or whatever you guys are drinking. How was your January, right? We're, 1/12 through the year at this point. Did you stick to your weekly goal? I know I had asked you guys at the beginning of the year to put a weekly goal down about, 5 hours a week, 10 hours a week. You were going to commit to maximum. I'd like to know you guys here in Zoom call. We got about 41 of you guys participating. Go ahead and put it in the chat. Let us know. Did you guys stick with your goal? Did it actually work out? I'll put some of this on screen so everybody can see. Yes. Okay. Did stick with it. Yep. 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 Awesome. 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 Stuck with it. Second week was bad. Could not do any track than a high boost. Daniel, very cool. Yes. 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 Awesome. Glad to hear that, guys. A bit beyond for Norm. Very cool. Work got in the way. Jesus, no problem. And you know what? This is what I want to also just take a second to acknowledge because don't beat yourself up over that. It happens to all of us where we have our goals and then life just sort of gets in the way. It's better to get these things figured out and realized as soon as possible so that as the year goes on, we can course correct. Sync Focus is not about perfection. It's not about getting it right the first month. It's not about nailing all of our goals, committing to everything and getting everything right and making sure that the first track that we ever produce here in this process is going to get placed and make us six figures. That is not what this is about. This is just about progress, getting forward, moving forward, and doing a little bit better. And sometimes that means making a whole bunch of mistakes or just letting life kind of do its thing and then realizing, oh, okay, I have to make some more time for this, or I have to kind of rethink how I'm going to approach this. If I think this is really going to be a new normal for me, if I'm going to build in this habit of showing up throughout the whole year. So, Jesus, glad that you had that experience. It's not pleasant, of course, not what you wanted to have happen, but it did. And so now you have the opportunity to course correct in February. We're only, like I said, 1 month done. That's okay. We've got plenty of time left to make some changes. So it's really cool. Tara, you surpassed it. That's very cool. So struggling with my goals, but accomplished the goals. Very cool. January, I had a lot of work with production for artists. So awesome. So sounds like a lot of you guys have been doing great, sticking with that. So how many of you, this is just going to be a yes, no, how many of you found your 3 to 5 libraries to pitch to? So let's also go that into the chat there. For those of you on Zoom, sorry, on YouTube, I'm only interacting really with the chat through our Sync Academy Zoom call right now. So yes, lots of yes, threes. Okay, you did. Easy. Very cool, Mark. Awesome, awesome. Wow, okay. That's really great. Because I saw a lot of yeses on our progress chart. Not yet, Santi. That's okay. No, Ryan. That's okay. I also want to just double click on this and give you guys some encouragement of it's okay if you don't have your 3 to 5 libraries right now. It's not a race. This isn't a sprint. It is a marathon. So maybe you're just getting into Sync Focus in the last couple of days. Maybe you're just watching this right now and wondering maybe I should get started. Is it too late? No, definitely not too late. It's better to do this research in the beginning phase of wherever you are. So if you're just getting started with our Sync Focus program, this is still going to be one of your top things you need to get done before you jump into all of the work and all the making music and all that kind of stuff. Because as I said last time, If you don't know where your target is, you could be wandering off into the wilderness and not really know exactly where you're going to be shooting your music at. So, for those of you who said no, not yet, that's okay. No shame in that. You guys are on your journey, but keep that at the top of your list. Even though February, we're going into reference tracks. If you haven't done the 3 to 5 yet, that's what always going to point you guys back to. We have that replay. It's on my channel. It's in Sync Academy. So make sure you guys do take that seriously. Okay. Did you join our mastermind? We had a lot of you guys. I can't remember the number. I want to say it was like 40, maybe 50 of you that joined us for the mastermind Zoom call within Sync Academy a couple Fridays ago. That was amazing, very insightful. I was listening to a lot of those conversations. So I saw a little kind of collaborative community already getting built up as a result of that. Please do try to make our next one when we do schedule it. I'll let you guys know at the end of this presentation when that might be. Those are very powerful because you're going to learn stuff and you're going to connect with people that you never could have otherwise. You're not going to get this stuff from a Google call or a Google search or a chat GPT prompt. I know all these new, deep research and all these amazing new GPT products are coming out, but these things are not trained on the individual human experiences that have not been written about online. And there's a lot of that. Okay. Whatever's written online is probably 1/100th or 1,000th of exactly what the wisdom and the knowledge that can be contained about this industry. So you learn a lot just by talking to people for sure. Did you finish at least 2 tracks? And I put finish highlighted, bold, underlined. Not just started them, not just came up with 2 demos, but the whole point of Sync Focus is to complete your 2 ideas. I saw a lot of completed ones on the chart, saw a couple of empty spaces. People haven't uploaded their tracks. That's okay. But we want to make sure that we finish our tracks. They don't have to be perfect. They don't even have to be tracks that we think we're ever going to really send to a library, but just getting 2 tracks done every single month. This is sort of like we're working on the bounce pass in basketball. We're working on the fundamentals to just make sure that we show up every month and we hit bounce on at least 2 tracks. You can do a lot more. I saw a lot of you guys doing a lot more than 2, but that is what we really want you guys to do every single month. So did you do that? Did you fill out the progress chart? So for all of you guys, obviously here in Sync Academy, if you guys have or haven't, specifically if you haven't, make sure you do after this call. Go right back in there in the courses section and fill in your progress chart for sure. Also, if you want me to potentially review your track, which we will do at the end of today's presentation, you do have to have your tracks up there. I can't get to everybody's. There is far too much music on there for me to get through, but I will sort of randomly select them and I will give you guys kind of an overview, quick review, so we can get through a lot of tracks to give you guys a sort of direction of like, yep, you're going in the right direction, or you might need to course correct in a major way. That's kind of what we're going to focus on today. But I can't give you any potential feedback if you're not uploading your tracks to the progress chart, okay? So moving on here, let's talk about reference tracks and why they are crucial and so important. Everybody watching this call, if you're in Sync Academy, definitely for you. If you're on my YouTube channel, definitely for you as well. You must use them, okay? Most of you guys watching this are fairly new to Sync. Some of you maybe have been at Sync for a couple of years, but most of you guys watching this are at least, I would say maybe within the first couple of months of really getting serious, or even if you've been at it for a couple of years, but you haven't been getting a lot of results and you haven't been using reference tracks, today that changes, okay? No more. We're not doing it anymore. Imagine this. How crazy would it be if I told you to drive to some new location and said, but don't use a map, don't use GPS, don't use any coordinates, just get in a car and see where you go, see where you end up. That's insanity. Nobody would ever do that, right? You would want to at least have some helpful map blueprint on where you should be going. Yet this is what most producers are doing in sync licensing. They are trying to land in full-time income land with sync licensing without using a map, without using a GPS, without using any sort of a guide for how to potentially get there. Reference tracks are basically tracks that have been accepted by production music libraries that already are strong enough for those libraries to represent to TV and film clients. It doesn't guarantee that they get placed. Some of them have, but at least you know that they've crossed the minimum quality threshold that a production music library takes them seriously enough to be able to make money with them, right? Which means they can get potentially placed. So if you're not using these things, you're not analyzing them, we're going to show you guys how we do that today. You are literally driving blind. You are going to spend way more time in this business than you absolutely have to. So please, this is a rule moving forward. You must use reference tracks, okay? As I said before, they're going to save you time, not only on your individual tracks, okay? Because they're going to basically be something you can always go back to, and get some inspiration for, and it gives you sort of a little bit more of a framework for where to go with your track. But they're also, I believe, going to shrink down the timeline between now and full-time income for you, okay? So on the macro, I think they're going to save you a lot of time because these are tracks, again, that are already licensable, serviceable, ready to go for the industry. So you don't have to go reinventing the wheel. I know a lot of us want to create something 100% original. We don't want to fall in line with something else. Eventually, after you get really good at this, trust me, you will create some amazing, beautiful, original pieces of music that are still licensable, but really have your own sonic, unique brand to them. That's what we're going to talk about next month. But again, we're talking about the bounce pass right here. We're not going to go do alley oops and slam dunks if we can't pass the ball to our teammates and dribble the ball down the court, and we can't keep if we're out of shape, basically, we can't run it up and down the. You got to get fundamentals and basics down first. Then you can build on top of that. So they are going to definitely save you time. Make sure you do this, okay? They can certainly get you unstuck. They've gotten me unstuck so many times when I get stuck. And right now, I'm in the process of literally pitching for another theme opportunity. And I've gotten stuck multiple times. It's actually challenged my confidence as a producer. Going back to reference tracks, listening to other music is my go-to of getting me out of this funky, I'm doubting everything, and getting inspired again and going down something really inspirational. So they'll definitely help you with writer's block. And I do believe they're going to massively, beyond anything else, even beyond getting feedback from me or any of our pros or watching tutorials or anything we do in Sync Academy, literally everything we do is helpful, but it's not even close to being helpful of you doing this on your own. Finding reference tracks, emulating them, and analyzing them and making sure that you're following in their footsteps, not copying them. Okay, let's talk about that real quick if my next slide wants to come up. So be careful because I'm not telling you to copy them, okay? Big, bold, do not copy. That's copyright infringement if you're literally ripping off the music that you're listening to, okay? Not cool, don't do it. Let's talk about some common guidelines to make sure you stay safe doing this, okay? Always, always, always use your chords, your melodies, and your lyrics if you're going to have vocals, okay? Do not use their chord progression. Don't use their melodic lead. Don't use anything about what they're doing, okay? As long as you're writing your own original chords, your own original melodies, meaning mostly lead melodies, that kind of thing, and obviously writing your own lyrics, not using ChatGPT or some AI model that may or may not be outputting copyright infringing material, um, you'll be much safer. Okay, I can't obviously make any guarantees, but if you're just writing your own original music, you're going to be a much safer place. You can copy the tempo, right? There's a reference track that's 98 BPM. You can use 98 BPM. That's not copyrightable. There's no copyright infringement. Okay, you can copy the sounds, the style, the sonic texture of their instruments. If they have live sounding great, huge, epic, rock drums, you can go find live, huge, epic rock drums in yours as well. You can literally use the exact instruments that they have in their reference track. In fact, I think most of you guys should be doing that, especially if you're at the beginning phases of this, trying to find your own instruments and your own plugins, VSTs, that emulate and sound just like the ones that you're hearing in your tracks, okay? And the mood, obviously, is okay to copy. So if it's really dark and it has a lot of conflict in it, you can definitely copy that mood and really try to make a track that's also very dark and has a lot of conflict in it, right? That kind of a thing. So these are all things that you're not going to get in any trouble with, but taking their chord progression, taking their melodies, using parts of their lyrics or melodic hooks or something like that, boy, you're asking for it, okay? So don't do that. And definitely common sense, but I have to say it, don't illegally download anything. Most libraries you go find and do your research on will not let you download their music, okay, for a good reason. Don't try to do that. And also, don't try to create an account there to access something if you're not one of their clients. Usually, a lot of these libraries might have a sort of access like login. That's not for you. That's not for composers. That's not for producers that are trying to potentially work with them. That's for their TV and film clients. So you definitely don't want to piss them off on day one by trying to access a catalog or features to a catalog that were not designed for you to do it. 95% of these catalogs that you'll find in this industry are open to the public. You don't have to have an account to find them. A few have locked them behind password protected walls, but the vast majority of them, you're not going to have an issue with that. Okay, so just be careful of that. Now, I'm going to give you guys a little acronym that I've come up with recently just for this presentation, and I'm glad it kind of worked out well because it just is going to help us stay on track. I hate acronyms, by the way. I think acronyms are used way too much in everything, but whatever. It might help you guys remember if you guys are listening to reference tracks to remember this acronym. Okay, so here's the acronym. L, length. Very simple. That's just a number you're going to look at, okay? If you're looking at minimal tension cues and they're all about a minute and a half, should you send a 4-minute long tension cue to that library? No, you should follow along with, hey, all of their tension cues are between a minute and a half and 2 minutes. There is a sweet spot. So you know right off the bat, that is a very binary, very obvious scientific thing you can pay attention to make sure that you're going to be serving right off the bat something that's not going to be immediately thrown out or saying, it's cool, but it's 5 minutes. Who needs 5 minutes? Nobody needs 5 minutes in this business, right? Which is true. Okay. So we're going to pay attention to the length. Then for I, we're going to look at the instruments. Okay. So I'm showing the slides with what is this? The Apple program. What is it called? Keynote. Anyways, I got ahead of myself. Instruments. This is the oh, are you guys not seeing this? Sorry, one second. Realizing you guys are not seeing in Zoom land what I'm showing here. I forgot to share my screens. One second. As I told you guys, my uh, brain is a little bit slow right now because of my cold. So I do apologize. Everybody see that now, right? You guys can see that one? Okay. Let me get, there we go. Sorry. Okay. Don't worry. It's all recorded. So you guys can catch the first part of this presentation on the replay if you need to. Okay. So the length right here. Okay. Instruments, as I said before, we need to make sure we're understanding what kind of piano is in this track, for instance. Does it have a lot of reverb around it? Is it dark? Is it soft? Is it intense? What are the drums doing? What is the guitar sounding like? Do these instruments sound live? Do they sound electronic? How big do they sound? How, realistic do they sound? All those kinds of considerations for instruments, okay? For S, we're going to pay attention to the structure. So we obviously know how long the track is, but did it start out with a big epic kind of chorus and then kind of go down to a relaxed build up or a verse and come back up to a chorus? Is the entire track just one huge crescendo? A lot of times you might find that with tension music, is that it just starts off kind of small, grows to a little bit of a crescendo halfway through, takes a little bit of an edit point, and edit points definitely are part of the structure. So a little pause, maybe a half-second pause, that would be something you pay attention to for the structure. And then maybe it restarts again on a B section, like a whole new musical direction, and amps that up to the very end, right? So these are the kind of structural elements we got to make sure that we are paying attention to. It'll keep you very, very focused. It'll keep you in line with making licensable production, marketable music. Transitions, how are we going? Like, how does the track start, basically? Does it start with something that's like a slow, meandering kind of pad, draw up? Does it start with something very big and intense and attention grabbing? How do we transition from our build up to our chorus? How do we transition out of the chorus back into our build up or our reduced section, right? Our kind of tension section. What sound effects are being used? Are there stuttering effects happening? These are the kind of little tricks and elements that we want to make sure that we are paying attention to for what makes certain tracks get accepted by libraries versus maybe others, okay? Emotion, one of the most important ones. What is the clear emotion in this track? If we can't name that directly, we are lost, okay? If I listen to your music, especially today, or when I do a lot of reviews and pro feedback, if I'm scratching my head going, this is a little bit upbeat, but it's got this kind of darkness to it, and then halfway through the track, it changes, that's just a big red flag and a no for production music libraries. If they can't clearly say, yes, this is a partying at 3 a.m. dance track. If they can't feel that emotion immediately from your track and your track isn't consistently delivering that emotion all the way through, as you'll hear with these reference tracks we'll listen to, it's dead in the water. Okay, so emotion is so important. And emotional clarity is really what it is all about. Having a bunch of different emotions is useless. One emotion per track and having a very, very clear definition of that and how to do that. Okay, and notes. And no, this is not just notes you're writing down, but I mean actually the musical notes. Pay attention to how long are these notes? How long is the lead melody? Is it just 1 bar? Is it 2 bars? Is it 4 or 8 bars? How are the chords in the melodic chord progression working out? Are they just whole notes, bum, 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 or are they kind of syncopated? Do they have some kind of interesting rhythm to them? What are the notes doing in this track? I've found that one of the common notes that I give a lot of you guys is that sometimes music feels very boring and on the grid. Like it's like your chord progressions are just on the one, next chord progression on the next one, and the leads are just quarter notes, bing, ding, ding. It's just very boring. It's very robotic and very stiff, and it's not really interesting. And sometimes just rewriting things so that you have a more interesting rhythmic dynamic with your chord progressions and your lead melodies makes your track much more attention grabbing and keeps your listener on the edge of their seat, and it makes it much more licensable because that's really your job, right? If they put your track underneath a reality TV show elimination scene, what's the point of your track being there? It's to keep the listener on the edge of their seat to find out who's going to get eliminated or who's not going to get the date or whatever it's going to be. So that's definitely something we're going to pay attention to today. Okay. So I think with that, what we're going to do is I'm going to go ahead and stop the share, and I'm going to go into my first library that pretty much the only one I think I'm going to share with you guys today to give you guys some reference tracks. But I'm not going to just find whatever I think is interesting. I want to ask you guys here in Sync Academy, what is it that you are doing? Like what styles of music would you like me to go research? Now, extreme music can accept producers. I actually had the CEO Russell on my channel last year, and he said that they do accept producers and composers. Sorry, I'm trying to get the chat back up. There it is. They do accept direct producers and composers, but you have to be amazing. You have to be undeniable and unbelievably talented to have any chance of doing some great things with them. So, just so you know, your chances are low, or not that they're impossible, but they're a little bit lower to get accepted by a company like Extreme Music, but it can be done. Now, I'm picking Extreme Music because I personally use them a lot. They pretty much have every style of music you could ever want, and everything that they have is exceptionally good, just really high quality. So when I'm looking for something very quickly, this is one website that I would look to. Now, here's a pop quiz question for all of you guys here in Sync Academy. What's a better library for you to use rather than Extreme Music? Extreme Music can be used for sure, but what's the better library for each one of you? And you each will have your own answer for this. You don't have to actually put the name of the library, but which library would be the best one for you to look at to look for these reference tracks? I'm going to put that in the chat out there. The ones we are pitching to. That is correct, Matthew. You win. If I had candy, I'd throw you a candy bar. Yes. So the 3 to 5 libraries that you guys have hopefully come up with by now are the ones that you're going to work on soon. Those would be the ones would be the best places for you to go find it. Obviously, because you want to make sure that your tracks are on par with what they have and you want to be serving their needs. Because Extreme Music will have different types of music, different lengths of music, all that kind of stuff with their reference music. So you got to make sure that you are following in line with your specific targeted libraries. Again, that's why hopefully this is making sense why it's so important to have these libraries before you do a lot of what we're doing as we move forward with the rest of the year. Okay, so I've got a lot of rock here. Okay, so we're gonna just type in rock. I don't know if you guys have a specific type of rock that you guys are looking for, but this is what we're going to do is we're going to just basically look at a couple of their albums and kind of see what they have going on and then give you an idea for how I would analyze these things to start wrapping my head around this. And I'm not going to do the written notes here. I'd have to pull in another note tab thing, but this is stuff that you guys, especially if you're new to Sync, fairly new, you should be writing this down, not just taking mental notes as I'm going to just verbally do it here. You should write this stuff down. If you have a physical piece of paper and a pencil, even better than doing it digitally, but definitely write this stuff down. So we've got Sunshine Rock. Let's just take the first one. Why not? So they got an album here called Sunshine Rock, a sunny sonic overdose of vitamin D. Okay. Kind of get a vibe for where it's going just by looking at the artwork there. But let's kind of first of all just go right down. What's the first? What does L stand for? And listen, length. Okay, we got some longer ones here. Look at this: 344, 339, 243. So it looks like a little under 2. If you were going to go in this direction, would be okay. But this is pretty long, 344. And I'll be honest, I don't see often tracks that are this long in sync. Usually 330 is kind of where they max out. But I'm wondering if these have lyrics in them. I think they do because they have an instrumental version and a full version. So that might be why these might be just straight up full on tracks. So we're just playing the first track of this. And again, we're going to go through the acronym and we have the length already. Now we're going to pay attention to the instruments, the structure, the transitions. Let me see if I can remember them all, the emotion and the notes. Okay. So let's just take a listen to a little bit. And if you guys have any issues with the audio, just let me know in the chat here. Okay.
Looking down at the ocean, feeling things that I never felt before. Like I'm here for the moment, blinding lights waiting through that open door. High up on emotion, maybe someday I won't feel the same. But right now you're the potion, 'cause I'm broken, but you can save me from myself. Don't say a word, don't break the magic spell. Sweet lights are all I need right now. Sweet life, sweet life, sweet life. There ain't nothing like this. There ain't nothing like this. To make you feel so alive. And when the morning comes, I'll be on my own. But I know I'll be just fine. I'm gonna be alright.
Okay, so just want to play a little bit of it. First time of me hearing this. Okay, so everything that we listen to today, I probably haven't heard any of the tracks that we're going to review. So this is all just kind of my fresh off the top thoughts. First thing I want to talk about is the lyrics. We will listen to the instruments for sure. But the lyrics are very important here. As you noticed, ain't nothing like this. Sweet life, right? we've talked about this a thousand times on my channel, and definitely I want to keep just doubling, always emphasizing the fact that if you're going to make music specifically for sync licensing and you think you're going to get great placements with probably ad placements, which is exactly what I think this would work well for, you also need to make sure that your lyrics, like this track, are open for many interpretations. Okay. The sweet life. What is the sweet life? You know, you won some money, you went on a vacation, you got a credit card, you bought a new car. These things can all be applied to the sweet life, right? And what are advertisers going to want to compel their, viewers to do? Buy that car, do that thing, get the quote unquote sweet life. It could literally be applied for so many different clients, but it's a great track. It doesn't sound cheesy, it doesn't sound like some, Muzak kind of jingle thing. It sounds like somebody said even Coldplay for sure. Like there's a little bit of this feeling of Coldplay in here. It actually could be for sure like a popular track that's charting as well. And also Ain't Nothing Like This, right? Well, what's this? That's exactly why this is extremely licensable. This is a very generic open term. Ain't nothing like this can be opened for so many different opportunities. So it's kind of the opposite with sync licensing. With artist music, a lot of times you want to tell a specific story using lyrics that are painting a particular picture. You want to show, not tell. In licensing, when you're making your lyrics, you want to tell, not show. Okay? You want to tell the fact that you're living a sweet life and there ain't nothing like this. But you don't want to get into too specific of detail about what exactly that means, because then you start pigeonholing your music into places that maybe won't be as useful for a variety of clients. Okay, let's check out a little bit of the instrumental. We can talk about the instruments. Okay, so what's interesting about all that, and some of you guys on YouTube are saying we got some phase issues with the audio. Sorry about that. Can't change anything or fix anything at this point in it, so my apologies. But the what I'm noticing for sure is there's kind of like a fundamental base of electronic instruments that have live instruments stacked on top, right? So the kind of the drums, the synth, those chords, a lot of that's all electronic essentially. But on top, you have, the sax for sure, Aaron. You definitely hear the sax for sure. You got a live sounding sax on top. And then you've got that live guitar in the beginning. You guys heard this kind of live up here. A lot of phase, but that sounds like a live guitar was plugged in to kind of get this cool thing. The bass maybe was live. I don't know. That one, take it or leave it. It could be either one. But those are the kind of, ideas and the things that I would pay attention to. Why does this feel a little bit 80s, right? What is it in here that's really making it feel a little bit like the 80s? For sure, the chord progression, the style of it. Dun, dun, doo, 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 doo. That would be kind of the notes. We're paying attention to how the notes are being structured and the vibe of it. Of course, the tempo as well. We'll pay attention to that. But it's really I think these chords, these synth chords that they have on here. Maybe it's not a synth chord, but just that kind of, almost sounds like a palm muted guitar. Bum, 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 bum. So a bass pulse for sure. That's got a little bit of there. So there's definitely some 80s vibes that are coming out of these instruments specifically. For sure, the drums as well. And I think it's more just the rhythmic approach to this and the musical direction of it. It's definitely got, and then that horn comes in, you're like, oh, this is straight up like 80s, like pop, right? So that's certainly something you should be paying attention to if you were going to create something like this. Again, this might not be applicable for anybody watching this. The point is not to, use maybe this particular album, but just to kind of pay attention to exactly what's happening with these reference tracks, okay, and then emulate them. Structure, as you can see, we won't listen to the whole thing, but definitely you can just visually see how we start off. We got our verse, we have a little pre-chorus build up, and then we got a chorus, and you got your second verse, third chorus, maybe the fourth chorus, that kind of thing. I haven't, where we won't listen to the whole thing, but you definitely need to make sure that if you're going to be, creating music in this style or this lane, you sort of emulate exactly what's happening here. And how quickly does this track get into the vocals? Did it take a long time? Nope, very quickly, right? Just the drum fill right into the vocals, okay? So that would be something that you can also emulate as well, where you don't take 30 seconds to get into the vocals. It's another common thing I hear from a lot of producers that are trying to essentially make music that sorry, I lost my train of thought there, but trying to get their music in with vocals. And I'll hear like, a minute of the track. I'm like, this is cool. And then vocals pop up like a minute into it. And it's like, no, those should have been at the very beginning. Like, you really got to make sure that the people previewing your track know you're going to deliver some great vocals at the very start of the track. Okay. So, anyways, that's that one. Let's go into another one. Give me some more of your styles, guys. We maybe do one more rock one. Let's do Deadbeat Rock. Let's see what this one is. But while I'm doing this, give me your styles. Orchestral rock. We got a lot of rock, guys. I'm very, very curious about that. All right, Deadbeat Rock. And as I'm playing this, let me see if I can mess with the audio file or the audio settings. Sorry, YouTube guys. I know you're having a rough morning.
I don't know what I saw. She's fire setting off the smoke alarm. I'm tired of her playing hard to get, kinda lit up with her friends at the mall. Oh, oh, just like a falling star. Cast in the movie, played the girl next door. The suburbs, they kill me, but I could show her that I'm bigger than this little town and broke down car. There's nothing for us here, we're gonna sparkle and fade, but maybe she can.
Okay, we won't get into all these tracks. I want to get through quite a few, but this is 100% live, right? Nothing synth in here at all, at least not yet. Maybe in the chorus they introduced something, but all of this sounds like a live drummer, live bass player, live guitar player, right? And definitely has a feeling of 90s, right? Especially with the vocals and the style. Almost give me that, not Tonic, but there's a band, I can't think of them right now. I will buy you a new car, whatever they are. Somebody in the chat will let me know who they are. That's what's giving me this vibe for sure. Kind of, ironic sounding like 90s rock for sure. So pay attention, of course, the length. We got 330, usually a little over 3 for all of these. So again, if you're going to come to the table, 8 tracks here, and you wanted to make something that would work well for Extreme, pretty much an entire album, and pretty much I'm guessing every single one of these is going to feel like it could have been, and maybe a new artist as well, awesome popular rock hit song essentially, and probably something that would have worked well in the 90s for sure. So that's something you guys would pay attention to. And of course the emotion, I haven't really tapped on that yet. Well, I want to do that now. A lot of you guys in the chat were talking about tension. Let's just go into their tension, okay? Tension is very, very popular. It's extremely licensable. It's one of the most licensable styles because of so many reality shows using it, and scripted shows as well. But if you can find a situation where you make some great tension music for a library, you're going to be in a really, really good position for sure. Survival instinct. Let's just go again. We're not going to overthink it. We're going to go to the first thing that we can essentially find. And let's first pay attention to, again, the length. Around 230 is the top, 230. So there you go. That would be something for you guys to pay attention to. We're around 2 minutes, so a little under, a little bit over is pretty much what they're telling you if you use these reference tracks to keep your cues to. Don't do 60 seconds, don't do 3 minutes, keep it to where it is. So let's kind of listen to this. Let's pay attention to the instruments, the mood, the notes. I haven't really talked too much about the notes and the style and how they're working, but let's see if we can dive into some more details on this one. For tension. So pretty minimal, right? Not too much going on here. In fact, a lot of you guys that are probably doing tension are probably working too hard, putting way too much into your track. There's not a lot happening here, but it's just great. It's very clear on the tension, right? It's very clear on the emotion of where this thing is trying to go. Notice the structure, right? So we're kind of building and building and building. We take a little pause. We got the drums kicking in, and this beautiful little rest here. So that's just a great example of how there's not much going on there, but it's perfectly written. There's just so much excellence there with how that transitional phase was written with those two chords kind of working together to lift us back up into another pulsing section to kind of build us back up towards the end. Okay. And you'll notice with a lot of tension, this is kind of one of the golden rules, is a lot of times the end, they kind of save the best for last. That's where the big energy happens. Let's take a listen to the end of this one and see what they do. Very important though, is that it's funny that didn't have a sting ending. I would have told them put a sting ending on the end of that. But it's very important about this. For those of you that want to do minimal music, this is as big as this track gets. It's almost getting into that kind of tension, sorry, not tension, that trailer world, right? It's kind of becoming larger than life, a little bit more intense, but it doesn't quite get to this big, huge, epic trailer place. And a lot of tension composers that I've definitely coached and given feedback to get a little confused because they start off a track in a minimal tension place, but by the end of it, it's like this huge trailer with massive drop downs and string risers and all this crazy stuff going on. It's too big. It's too much. This is about as big as you really need to go with tension music, especially if you're going to go into the reality minimal tension music. Somebody was asking about who creates this stuff. Yes, Extreme Music, or maybe their sub publishers, whoever's in charge. Reality Check, I think. I don't know if that's theirs control or if they have a sub publisher that does that. They usually handle that. The track titles, if you supply some great licensable and they think are very marketable track titles, they'll keep yours. But many times in my career, libraries have retitled mine because they know better how to maybe title something to make it a little more attention grabbing. But most times, it just depends on what you're giving them, essentially. So that's something kind of interesting for you guys to check out. Let's do one. Let me get one more. I heard somebody said orchestral, but that's such an open word or term. Let's see what they can actually do. Let's see. Let's go check out contemplation. Let's see what they do. For those of you that are in the orchestral world, let's take a listen to what this is all about. These are, look at these, around 2 minutes, a little over 2 minutes is what they're good on these ones. Okay, it's too beautiful. Sorry, I didn't want to even stop that, but we got to keep moving on. One thing I just wanted to point out, obviously, captures your attention, right? All of you guys were probably mesmerized for the last minute and a half just listening to that. Yes, definitely video games. This could certainly be useful for dramas. It could be useful for advertisements. I think some dramatic advertisements could certainly be useful for this. But let's talk about the notes on this one, though, right? Let's get a little more into analytics. What you noticed was that these chords didn't just kind of start on the one when you predictably usually you would have these these strings that are kind of going, dun, 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 and then the piano comes in. Just pay attention to how surprising these chords dropping are. They don't necessarily hit exactly when you expect them to do. And that's kind of a cool, interesting little thing to pick up on as you want to create something that's really licensable but unique and has a little bit of a twist that maybe could set you apart. So this one obviously does set it apart that way. So this little, all of these for sure. And I'm a drummer. It's not fitting exactly how I expect it or want it to, but I love it, right? It's just working, and I don't exactly know why it's working, but it is working. But it's not doing exactly what you would think it would be going just dun 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 dun. That's kind of the boring on the one. That's when we change chords. It's not doing that. And then also here, this really interesting little change here of the timing. So Brian's saying the chords are hitting every 5 beats. So there you go. You picked up on that. That would be something to write down. Okay, every 5 beats, the specific number like that. That would help you create something interesting and unique, and just how these chords are structured and the emotion that they're pulling out. And also notice, is there a ton going on in terms of stacking? Is this session going to be a massive, huge, busy session? So far, not at all. It's basically, I think, what, 3 things that you're hearing? A couple of string instances, some of them kind of playing off each other, and then you got your piano there. So it's just written really, really, really well. Builds, it builds, it builds. It's just a beautiful piece of music. So we need to be focusing more on our writing, especially with production music these days, than we ever have before. It's not good enough these days, and this is what Russell, the CEO of Extreme, told me. Just good enough ain't good enough anymore. You really need to come to the table with something that's undeniable, exceptional, that just blows our heads off and makes us go, we have to work with this composer. So this would be a great one for you guys to kind of check out. So let's do, we haven't done any hip hop. Let me just see if I can find at least one hip hop cue. Let's see what we got. Back on it. Let's see what we got here. So this is an artist, a singer, songwriter, guitarist, and rapper. Began his music journey in church. Okay, so this obviously has some vocals on it. We'll take a listen to this one. Look at the lengths. We're at 150, a little over, a little above and below 2. 1 is a little bit up to 3. So that's kind of where you're at here. Back on it. Let's take a listen.
Ain't gonna let you stop my shine, yeah, I'm up. Yeah, it's only up from here, up and stuff. Why you asking where I am, where I was? I got a habit to go ghost, it's a must. Cause I'm back on it, back on it. Yeah, I'm back on it, back on it. I'm back on it, back on it. I'm back, taking everything that I lost. Hey, look, feeling great. I love when I feel like this. Every morning, every day is a good day. I don't even like to waste my time, think about what they would say. Ain't nobody else on my level with it. I ain't gonna never trip about the fake lies, I don't stick with it. No, people wanna talk about everything else, you can talk, you ain't never gonna break me. All the ammo that you saved up, you can shoot, yeah, but I'm always on safety. Everybody got something to say. Man, won't you mind your business? They don't even see my words. I'ma show them all of my work. Ain't gonna let you stop my shine, yeah, I'm up. Yeah, it's only up from here, up and stuff.
So you notice kind of a similar thing happening. This is a completely different style, different genre, obviously totally different vibe from the rock track that we listened to before with vocals. But what do you notice what's similar about these lyrics? Is he talking about a specific thing that happened or a specific point of view or, painting a specific picture? No, he's talking about a broad open thing that, he's back on it, right? What's it? That's exactly why we use words like it and this and all those kinds of things. So if you noticed, it's just more of an energy. It's more of a feeling. It's a vibe, essentially, that he's bringing. There is a story to be told, but that story can be interpreted multiple different ways. So especially for those of you that are going to get serious about sync and you want to work with some vocalists, which I highly encourage you do, these are the kind of things that you guys should really pay attention to make sure your lyrics are not pigeonholing yourself. I also realized the audio issue for you guys on YouTube might be because I'm sharing my screen through Zoom right now. So what I'll do, if it's just a complete mess, I'm assuming it is, I'll go ahead and once I have the recorded version from Zoom, I'll upload that to my YouTube channel and I'll just post this again. So sorry guys, if you're going to hear some crap audio or at least some music audio that's not so good right now. Can't do anything about it now, but that's just how it's going to work today. But back into this one. So let's take a listen to the instrumental and let's pay attention to what we can kind of assess from this. Now, what's interesting about this instrumental is that, it's a cool beat, fire, makes me move. It's definitely got all that cool energy. But if you were to come to a library, especially with Extreme, I guarantee you they would not accept just this as an instrumental, right? The reason why this instrumental got accepted is because these awesome vocals were put on top of it, okay? But you always include the instrumental version as a sort of, hey, if you need something to fill the gaps or you need just instrumental for whatever reason without the vocals, you can certainly get them. But if you are going to come to the table with extreme music, you're going to need to bring a lot more interest and a lot more dynamics, and you need to make your track move a lot more than this one does. This definitely has a little bit more of that kind of copy paste feel to it, but that's okay because there were some amazing vocals that helped push this thing forward. But I just want to make sure you guys are aware if you guys are wanting to do hip hop music, you really need to come to the table with something a little bit more, I don't know, dynamic than this. Let me see if I can find one. Maybe our last example today. Battle hip hop. I don't know if these have vocals. Let's check it out. Somebody was asking, what's the difference between a track and a cue? Those are just kind of two names that interchange. Sometimes a track we think of with vocals, a song with vocals, but not necessarily always. Yeah, these all have vocals. So I don't know if I'll be able to find one quickly. Yeah, future breaks. Let's see if we got something here. Looks like this one might not have any vocals. So this one obviously still has a little bit of that copy and paste thing, but they are adding elements as time goes on. So this is just kind of an interesting, really unique style. Future breaks. Cedric was asking what's the genre classification. I don't know if they're just calling it future break or what it is. I don't know if they have a genre classification here, but really interesting. You don't hear this kind of music, so it's got a cool futuristic vibe to it. So again, if you're going to come into this world with hip hop music and hip hop instrumental, this is kind of something you should think about. Not future breaks, but something that's more than just another trap hip hop beat that, every rapper can basically jump on top. You kind of have to do something really interesting, a little bit outside of the box, a little bit unique that'll kind of help carve out a niche for yourself. Because hip hop is extremely, what do you call it? Saturated. Just a lot of hip hop producers, a lot of hip hop people these days making hip hop. So if you really want to have a chance at this thing, for sure, you're going to have to really bring your A game. So there's a lot more you guys can dig into this. And I don't know if I did a great job of going through the listen acronym, but again, pay attention to the length. Pay attention to the sonic quality of the instruments and literally try to emulate the instruments that you hear in it and list them out. Write that stuff down, like drums. What does the kick drum sound like? What does the piano sound like? What are the guitars doing? All that kind of stuff. The structure of the track. How long is it? How does it transition? Does it take a little break and a pause? Are there any edit points where it really drops out for literally a second or two and then comes back in? what does the ending of the track look like versus the beginning, those kinds of elements. The transitions, how are things transitioning and building up into the next section. The emotion, the mood. If you can't name it, if you can't write it down, if you're not extremely clear on exactly what's happening with a track, well, chances are if you're looking into a legitimate library, you'll always be able to answer that. But if you can't do it for yourself, you're going to be in a really, really tough position. So just make sure that you can absolutely name the genre that you're, the emotion, the mood that you're listening to, and then try to always go back to that reference track as you're creating your track to make sure you're hitting that. Usually, staying in the same type of key. So if it's a minor song, the chord progression's in a minor key, you need to go in a minor key as well. That's okay. You're not committing any copyright infringement by staying in the same similar minor key. And in fact, even staying in the same key is not copyright infringement. Using their chord progressions, that opens up the can of worms. Using their lead, using their lyrics, or something that's extremely recognizable, too similar, then you're going to be in trouble. But you can take and borrow and steal, whatever you want to call it, train yourself off of this music and make sure that you're following in their footsteps. And one little tip I'll give you guys as we kind of close out this one. This is a really, really powerful, important one that I think you guys should really uh, use. One thing that I did early in my career, which I wish I had done way, way, way more in my career, was to actually use a production music cue and literally rewrite it note for note, like literally actually copy it. Okay, but not release it. This is why I want to be very clear. Do not do this and release this to a library. Don't put it on the internet. Don't even send it to a friend. Don't do anything with it. It's going to stay on your computer. It's an educational process for you to do it. Okay, but you could find one of these cues in extreme music and literally rewrite it. Try to find all of the same instruments, and then literally as you hear it, try to write the same, like literally write the same piano, right? The same strings, the same hip hop beat, the same, everything exactly the same. Basically recreate what you hear note for note, all that stuff, tempo, style, all that stuff. Okay. Again, we're not releasing this. We're not pitching this. That would be copyright infringement. You're going to be in huge trouble, and don't come crying to me that you got in trouble for doing that. I'm telling you not to do that. The reason why you want to go through this as just an educational process is you will learn a lot about how you've probably been working too hard, trying too hard in the wrong places. You've been stacking up too much. You've been adding too much to your track, thinking that'll make your track more interesting, dynamic, emotionally compelling. Chances are you probably just need to learn how to write better. And a lot of times just literally rewriting, famous painters do this. They basically go repaint the masters. Why are they doing that? Why are they copying other people's works? Because in the process of doing something, not watching a tutorial, not even here on a Zoom call, you guys are not going to be better at this as a result of watching this Zoom call or this live stream. Okay, sorry. You might be a little bit better educated on it, but you're not going to have the wisdom of what you need to do to make your tracks better. But by going through the process and doing the thing, you will learn. That's how you make something really interesting. That's how you stack up instruments. That's how you make your chord progressions compelling. That's how you make sure that your track is hypnotic, as we've heard with some of these cues today. So literally just do that. Again, I did it after a couple of years of being in my career. And if I had done that more consistently at the beginning of my career, I would have gotten better faster. And I would have probably gotten the full-time income faster. And my royalties probably would have been a lot bigger than they are. So I'm just telling you guys, one thing I have a regret, I wish I've done it way more and way earlier in my career, is to literally just use reference tracks sometimes as my educational, starting point. Not submit the track, not pitch it, but just use it as a place for me to learn how are the greats doing this. And it's basically like you're getting a free tutoring session from any composer and producer you want on planet Earth. You can do this with like popular songs too. Coldplay song you want to sound like, go use a Coldplay track to do this. Whatever, Bruno Mars, anybody else you guys are into, you can do this with basically anybody as long as you're not distributing it and putting yourself in illegal jeopardy by doing that. Okay, just make sure that we're all clear on that. All right. So with that being said, I have a quick little short presentation I got to get back to, and then we will go to reviewing a couple of your guys' tracks. So thank you guys for hanging with me here real quick. Let me go ahead and reshare. This is definitely more complicated than I thought it would be. Let me reshare my presentation. You guys should be seeing this now. For those of you that are on YouTube and you're like, I didn't get a start in January, it's too late. Nonsense. That's BS. It is not too late to get started. And for those of you that are in Sync Academy and you've fallen off a little bit, you're watching this, maybe the replay, and you're like, I haven't even found my 3 to 5 cues. I definitely haven't done my 2 tracks. Don't beat yourself up for it. Just use it as an opportunity to get yourself back on track and to realize, okay, I need to start fresh. I need to make sure I create a, achievable weekly goal. And I can do this now that I know what got in my way, or now that I know what my sort of distraction points are in life. I can work to get a little better at it in February. That's my encouragement for you guys. So Quick reminder with Sync Focus 2025 and Sync Academy, you guys are getting access to these Zoom calls. You can be on the chat and interact with me, and we're going to be listening to some of your guys' tracks here in just a minute. With Sync Edge, if you're like, well, where do I find my 3 to 5 libraries? That's what you can get with Sync Edge literally today. 60 plus music library recommendations, and these are the top boutique, smaller mom and pop operations that are allowing you to pitch to them. Doesn't guarantee you'll get accepted, but at least they have an open door policy. And because they're small and boutique, they can give you that personalized one-on-one relationship that you're definitely going to need if you have any prayer of making Sync your full-time job. This is a people business. People need to know you and have a relationship with you. We do bi-monthly check-ins. We definitely had a great one just the other Friday. The Mastermind group check-in call was really great. We've got the progress chart, which I'll show you guys in just a second. That'll keep you accountable. We do these mastermind groups, of course, to make sure you guys are hanging out and meeting each other. We're going to be opening up some collaboration opportunities in the next couple of months, so stay tuned. We'll talk to you guys about that. We have over 1,000 members, so you have a lot of people to choose from on our platform. And then, obviously, as you guys are going to show here in just a minute, we're going to do some track reviews. So there's a lot of good stuff that are happening. If you guys are watching this on YouTube and you want to potentially join us, there's going to be a link below for you guys to potentially do that. So what I want to do now, though, and it is a cancel anytime, 30-day money back guarantee. Okay, so there's no obligation and you have literally nothing to risk by giving us a shot. Okay, what I want to do today, right now, before we get into the reviews, is let you guys know what is the plan moving forward, because I think some of you guys maybe have to go. I was trying to keep this to around an hour, so I want to make sure I get the primary presentation done in an hour, and then we can move extra for some of our reviews. You need to get those 3 to 5 specific libraries if you haven't done them already. That definitely needs to be, again, top of your list for February, okay? This month, listen, listen, and listen. And when you feel like you've listened enough, go listen some more. Every single day, you should be having some production music that you're kind of listening to on your commute, on your drive, on your walk, going to the gym, whatever you're doing, going to sleep to. If you listen to music going to sleep, put this in your mind all the time, because it'll start to build and create some pattern recognition, algorithms in your mind. So you'll understand, and you'll start to just in secondhand nature know how to start crafting music in a way that's licensable. Just listen, tons, okay? Start creating, okay? Try not to watch tutorials, okay? It's just my common kind of advice for the entire year. Stay away from tutorial land. Stay away from, I got to learn one more thing. I got to do this. Just start creating. You're going to learn a lot more, again, following my tip I just shared with you guys, if you just create, than by watching other people create and watching podcasts and listening to people talk about this kind of stuff. You'll get a lot more out of this if you just actually put in the time, okay? Remember, we're just trying to build a habit here. We're not grading perfect tracks. We're not making sure that we're not expecting we're going to have full-time income next month or even by the end of the year. If 2024, you were waffling, you were kind of excited for a little while, you lost your focus, then you got back into it, and then you got out, or you were out most of the year, we're just basically fundamentals here. Just showing up, getting the bare minimum done every single month. So keep your expectations low on this. Don't shoot for the moon. You can start small. In fact, it's better if you start this new habit small and let it grow naturally, organically as you get further and further down the road, okay? So we're building a habit. Just make sure we're very, very clear on that, okay? The next Sync Academy Zoom session call we're going to have will be actually this coming Monday, so just actually a week from now. And it's going to be with a full-time sync licensing composer, Stephen McDonald. Why am I blanking on his last name? Stephen McDonald. Yeah, I think it's McDonald. Sorry, Stephen, if you're watching this and I'm getting your name wrong. He was with us before. As I said, I had I can't even say it, a cold this weekend, so my brain is sort of at 60% today. But he's going to join us Monday, February 10th in Sync Academy at 9 a.m. Pacific time, 12 noon. I'll post it later today so you guys get access to it. But he's going to join us, and it's going to be kind of a chance for those of you guys in Sync Academy to ask him specific questions. He's been at this, I think, 5-6 years, something like that. And it is his full-time job. He's doing great. He's working with really, really high-class libraries, and he is killing it with his placements and his royalties, okay? I'll let him decide how much he wants to disclose about all that kind of stuff, but that's definitely going to be coming down the pipeline for you guys in Sync Academy Monday, February 10th at 9 a.m. Pacific time, 12 noon. Sorry, I should say 12 noon EST, not PST, okay? 9 a.m. Pacific time. All right, that is it for that. Let me go ahead and stop the share. Then go back into our progress chart. And I know those of you guys on YouTube land, you're going to think this is hell because the audio is going to sound terrible. But that's what we're going to do. So here we go. Let me get a little drink of coffee here. All right, you guys should be able to see this now. Let me make this a little bit bigger. I guess we don't need to see it that big. All right, so lots of activity, guys. Look at this. I'm going to scroll down here. Look at this. We've got, it was like 120 or so. Yeah, look at this. And John just put his stuff in there. I will re-alphabetize this when we're done today, but just so you guys know, if you put your name on the bottom, you might show up wherever you are in the first name alphabetical list order. But lots of people participating here, which is great. Exciting to see that. I love seeing you guys put this up. Look at how many of you guys have put up your 2 tracks. Give yourself a pat on the back for doing that. That's really cool. I do see some empty ones. That's okay. That's normal. There's a lot of people that get excited, but how many of you are deciding to consistently show up? So it looks like a lot of you guys have certainly done that. So how these reviews are going to go, again, I'm going to disappoint many of you today because I can't get to everybody's track too much. And I will not be doing a very in-depth review of everybody's track. I'll sort of give you again, kind of like a thumbs up, you're going in the right direction, or maybe not necessarily a thumbs down, but like a reorientation of like you might want to rethink your approach to make sure that you are making something licensable. Sometimes in pro feedback, when I can get into more specifics, I'll dive into the weeds. We'll go into all the elements of the track. But to get to many different tracks today, I just want to take a quick listen, sample through a couple of pieces of your track, and I'll either tell you like, yes, this is definitely a licensable direction. This is where I think you should keep leaning into it, or I'll say, that you got some issues with this approach, this general approach, and here's why you might want to rethink this. Okay, so that's really what we're going to be doing today. So I'm going to randomly pick them. This is not out of like favoritism. I'm not even going to look at the names, in fact, before I click it. I'm just going to literally go up and down and click some random links. So I'm just going to scroll down randomly, click on this link. Okay, this is from Manuel. So let's take a listen to Manuel's track here, at least a part of it. Here we go. Okay, so I definitely see where you're going with this manual. It's definitely got that tension, maybe a little bit of sci-fi, kind of intense, basically tension music is where you're going for it. We need to, at this point, a minute into the track, I felt like we haven't taken any sort of a musical approach yet. It's very moody, it's ethereal, it's definitely setting a tone, and that's okay for the first, maybe 5-10 seconds of the track. But at some point, we got to move into a musical direction with actual chords, with notes. We actually got to move somewhere. I'm not feeling this track is moving anywhere yet. Let me listen to a little bit of the end here. Very creepy sounding. I mean, for sure. Like if it's like a Halloween kind of a scary horror vibe, I think you got something really, really compelling here for sure. This obviously feels like we're moving a little bit more in a musical direction. Probably wanted to even hear a little bit more tonality in this because it definitely feels a lot more. Again, the rhythm is coming in, but there's just a lot of kind of more pads, right, that are kind of playing out here. And there's this kind of breathing, creepy voice sound that could be great, or that could work against you depending on the library and what they want in your track. So I would just say across the board, if you want to go in the tension direction, definitely go in the tension direction. It certainly can work out. Horror and scary stuff, there's a limited market for that. You could do it, do some of it, but don't focus your entire career on it. Don't focus your entire catalog on scary music like this. There's just so many placements for this kind of stuff. And definitely, like what I would say, the sort of big comment would be get a little bit more into a musical direction rather than just setting this kind of ethereal tone. It's almost like you're setting an atmosphere rather than creating music with this. So this doesn't feel as musical as it needs to be necessarily for sync licensing. That's just my 2 cents on that. But thank you. Very, very cool. I'm going to make sure that I put a little something to make sure I remember who I've given a review to so we can get to everybody throughout these Zoom calls, okay? All right, randomly going up and down. Let's see, who do we got here? Richard. All right, let's see what you got here on the disco link. And yeah, guys, the only way that I'm going to be reviewing any tracks is if you put it in the progress chart. So you can send me all day long in the chat. I will not click on any of those, so don't do it. Here we go. So definitely, Richard, you got this kind of, it's got a little bit of a kind of an 80s pop to it. And we definitely heard a little bit of that today, right? Where we heard it. But one of the issues I'm already hearing with this track is it's got that kind of stiff feeling to it. Dun, 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 dun. dum, bum, bum, bum. So it's got this kind of stiff feel where everything's really sitting right on the grid and it's just not interesting rhythmically. So you definitely would need to rethink your approach on this. You would definitely be benefited for sure listening to a lot of reference music. And for sure, the next track you come up with, maybe you want to use that actual reference track we listened to, the kind of Coldplay 80s one that we had. That would be a great one for you to go listen to and figure out, okay, how are their drums working? What kind of pattern are their drums doing? Listen to yours. You know, it's got a cool riff, the kind of got a cool vibe with the drums. But the rest of the music is kind of all following and fitting right into the grid as well. So to me, it starts to feel a little bit stiff and it's not really compelling me to keep listening to the track. So you would be really, really better served by listening to those kinds of music and listening to those reference tracks and making sure you can emulate them. Also, I would say you either want to lean, you know, much further into the kind of like 80s vibe, or you really want to lean a lot more into a modern place right here. This one's kind of got this, it's got its foot in both. Like it could be a little bit of a 80s throwback, a little bit of a modern one, but it's not really giving me a clear definition of where this one fits. This is one of these kind of like nebulous tracks where I'm like, is this pop? Is this 80s pop? Is it kind of like, you know, what is this? I'm not exactly sure, and I don't know. Maybe a library would feel different about it, but I think a library might have an issue with that as well. So what I would say is either you want to go towards that kind of like 80s pop vibe, which is certainly big right now. A lot of people are excited about that using that, or you want to maybe check out a little bit more current modern sounding pop tracks and see if you can go in that sort of a direction and just make sure that you have a very clear direction. And also emotionally, I don't know if I got a clear, like what mood would this be? There's a little bit of maybe solving a mystery or walking down the street, but a little bit of attitude, swagger. It's got a little bit of a lot of different things, but that could be a problem, right? Because it's not very clear and it's not very focused on one particular scene it could potentially be placed in. So you just got to make sure you got a little bit more focus with your approach to that. So got some cool skills for sure. You could be going in a really, really cool direction with this, but I definitely say listen, listen, listen to reference tracks. You're going to be in a much better position if you do that, okay? Closing my eyes, scrolling around. Who do we got here? Let's do, we're close to the other one. All right, let's do Wolfgang. Take a listen to one of your tracks. Here we go. Definitely licensable. This is a great track. I think this is really, really strong. I liked how it built up. You kept the momentum moving forward. You kind of added new elements. You had this nice little edit break right here. And then, of course, you crescendoed towards the very end. And certainly people are calling it, you know, cyberpunk, futuristic for sure. You know, it's cybercrime, it's futuristic RoboCop kind of a feel going on. Even has a little bit of an 80s kind of feel with these really cool synths. And I think what's really strong about this is it's tension music for sure. And it's minimal, I guess. It's not huge, but it's very niche, very focused. It's like I can feel the vibe, the emotional tone of this, but also the subgenre of it. It's tension music in this futuristic sci-fi, you know, cyberpunk futuristic hell that you might need a placement exactly for this sort of thing. So I could see a lot of shows maybe on even Netflix eating this up and getting a lot of placements. So very, very licensable for sure. This might be a style of music. If you find one of your 3 to 5 libraries, they don't, maybe they have some exposure to this style of music. You would definitely want to come to them with a full album. I would say at least 8 tracks, maybe 10, but very, very, very high quality stuff here for sure. Mix is sounding great. Instruments are sounding awesome. I love this kind of little step down lead you had here. dun, 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 dun. I really like that. That's kind of a cool little thing you don't normally hear so much in this. And you got 10 already, Wolfgang. Then you're sitting on something probably really, really good and high quality. And you might be in a great, strong position to find some great partners for yourself. So well done. Glad you're here. Glad you're taking this seriously. And wish you all the best with those ones when you're ready to pitch them, man. All right, going around. Let's see, David, you're next up. Let's see what we got here. Let's do stepping up. So definitely got some licensability here for sure. Indie rock. There was one part here that was really cool. Let me find it again. I don't know if I can. There we go back a little bit. Where did I hear it? Maybe. Thought I heard a part where there was kind of like some shorter notes. The one thing that's starting to kind of weigh this track down are these long chords. You have dun, 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 dun. They're just ringing there, kind of hanging. And what I find, my little tip with sync licensing music is the shorter your notes, usually the better. Long, huge, full bar notes or 2-bar notes that are just, this applies to pads too and lead elements. When you have these long notes, they sort of drain the track. It's like the longer the note, the more energy it drains out of it. That's what I found. So shorter staccato notes and riffs. So if you had a little bit more punchiness to your riff, you'd actually have a lot more energy to it. But these long chords, especially with these big kind of distorted guitars, they start to really weigh down the track. So that would be my 2 cents to you is definitely keep leaning into this indie rock direction. It's very, very licensable. It's upbeat. A lot of reality shows and even like food and cooking lifestyle shows for sure use this kind of stuff all day long. But I would just stick a little bit more towards short staccato notes. That would be my sort of one big tip for you to kind of make sure your tracks are a little bit more licensable. 123 is probably a little too short, I'll be honest. I don't know how long this one is. So that one maybe even too long, and this one might be a little bit too short. So you might need to split the middle, go to around 2 minutes for this type of music. That's what I've usually found in this business. But again, the better place for you to get that specific answer is your 3 to 5 libraries that you want to potentially pitch to. But I would, for you, say go find some libraries that have a lot of exposure to reality TV shows, because that's really where you're going to get most of this stuff placed. Definitely some commercials, but probably not as much. I think reality for sure would be a great place for you to go check out. So really cool. Thanks for submitting and sharing that with us. All right, a couple more here. Random. Let's do David Varela. Take a listen to another David. Here we go. Time to be. Already love it. Up until those hits, everything was actually working. And then out of the blue, these big, very kind of distracting, dry smacks in the face kind of came in there. So probably, I'm going to kind of see what you do in the rest of the track. But right there, probably a little bit too much too soon. You almost want to keep those a little bit more subdued, like almost like they're threatening to come out of the mix, but they're not quite hitting you right in the face. So let me just check out a little bit more here. noticed some timing issues. I was like, is that my ears playing tricks on me or not? But I think you do have some timing issues here, so you got to make sure you really keep things nice and tight on the grid. Um, it's really cool, beautiful. I love how it's building up. It's really nice, but some of your strings felt like they're a little rushed or a little behind at certain places. So just make sure that you really are paying attention to the timing of stuff here. I'm hearing timing issues kind of across the board here. So I think what you got to do is make sure that when you do add your drums and your strings and all these kind of things, it'd be a good idea to make sure that things are just getting quantized right to the grid. If it's 16th notes or if it's 8th notes, just make sure that you do quantize stuff because it's beautiful music. It's huge. It's epic. It feels so amazing. But when there's these little timing issues that make things feel off, it's like you're just like you're drunk. It's like the floor is like moving underneath you and you can't quite get your footing because the whole track is just whoa, whoa, whoa. So that's going to kind of get in your way from getting accepted by libraries if they hear this kind of stuff. So don't get in your own way and just make sure you do some pretty easy, very quick. You know, most of this stuff, if you're using MIDI, it's like a 3-second fix. So one quick note on trailer music for sure, and you know there's some really cool elements to this for sure. You've got to bring, I would put this at like a 6 out of 10 in terms of intensity and how big trailer music needs to be these days to be competitive. This is at a 6 out of 10. So if you really want to do trailer, you really got to amp up the intensity here. You probably got to stack up more elements and instruments on top of it. And you really got to create a lot more aggression, especially for the last kind of big crescendo of your track. I'd say, you know, get it up to that 8, 9, larger than life, almost 10 out of 10 kind of feeling. And again, the best way to do that is not to listen to me, even take my notes seriously. It's go use reference tracks. If you go listen to, we didn't get into some trailer music with Extreme, but they have amazing trailer music. And you'll hear very quickly the differences between what you're doing here and what the tracks that have already been accepted by them and been pitched to their clients, okay? So you definitely need to amp it up. Now, I'm not a trailer composer, so I don't know if I can necessarily tell you exactly what you should do to get to that level, but for sure, if you want to use one of those trailer tracks, recreate it, like literally recreate it, you're going to learn how did they get this track to be so big, and you're going to basically have to dissect it yourself and figure it out. Yeah, so that would be my 2 cents to you. These days, trailer music is getting louder and bigger, and you know, just huger and huger by the day. And so you really got to bring some intense energy if you really want to be competitive with that kind of a thing. And it is, I think, honestly, something where it's one of those where you know, David, you might have it, but you really have to work a little bit more at it. And I think some people just have it or they don't. And you know, depending on how long you want to really work at making sure your tracks get up to that level that's going to be competitive, it's kind of up to you. But that's what's really tricky about trailer music these days. So, all right, let's give some love to the people in the A's. Let's do Alex. Let's check out what you got here on Disco. Really good. These little ear candies, this little kind of like feedback coming in here. You have these really beautiful strings, eerie strings coming in. For those of you that are, you know, watching this, listening to this or the replay, you can tell immediately it's quality, right? What is it about this that's quality? That's what we need to analyze. That's what we got to figure out. You know, Alex, your track might be a reference track for a lot of people here today. 230, very licensable for sure in the minimal world. It depends on, of course, who you're pitching to. But love how you have basically 3 sections here. You can see it visually, building up, a little bit of an edit point, building up, and we're going to have our final crescendo. Let me just hear what you got going on the end here. Yeah, man, you are in a very strong position, extremely licensable, very good. Again, I would get at least 8 of these together, 10 of these together, and whatever your 3 to 5 libraries are, you've got a very, I think, undeniable package here that could really do well. So I wish you all the best with this one. Don't have many notes for you. I think you're doing exactly what you need to be doing, and that's really, really cool to hear you. I think my guess is that I don't know if you're even here, Alex, but if you're watching this live, my guess is that you used reference tracks to make sure you got that because that sounds very ready to go, like it already could be belonging in a catalog somewhere. So well done here. All right, let's go to how about Austin? Let's check out your disco link here. So definitely you're going in a very licensable direction here, Austin. Definitely minimal tension all day long. It's kind of like the theme of the day, it seems like. But one big issue going on here. So you have some drums in there. You have some like kind of percussion. I wouldn't call them drums, but kind of some percussion. But they're very quiet. They're barely pushing any energy through in the track. And it's really these long, again, we said before, long, low notes, just sitting there at the bottom of the track. And it's literally like an anchor. It's pulling down all the energy of the track. You would be much better off if you reworked this track so that you actually had a pulsing bass line at the bottom. Something like that, right? Do whatever you want to do. Short staccato notes and more intense drums that'll kind of build and create a little bit more of that forward momentum on the edge of your suit. You got to remember, like usually what we're doing every time we throw drums and the pulsing bass on the bottom is we're emulating a heartbeat. That's pretty much what we're doing every single time because that heartbeat going up or kind of getting a little more intense is what provides tension to a scene. It's like a primal bass kind of response that we have about hearing these kind of low pulsing sounds. A low bong sounds like a tugboat. It's not really that scary, it's just kind of there, right? So we want to make sure that we are, again, just go on staccato, shorter, kind of more pulsing, kind of a low end there for sure. I want to make sure you do that as well. It looks like your ending is kind of a big fade out. We usually don't do that in production music. Let me listen to it. Yeah, so we never do a fade out like this, especially with minimal music, tension music, that kind of a thing. You always want to have a hit definite ending. Dun, 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 boom, kick, some sort of an impact, low bass note, something like that. So it's just like a punchy out. So if they need to get out of a scene and transition to something else, they can make sure they do it. It's mostly a universal rule for almost every style of production music you guys can think of. So just make sure you do heed that advice for sure. So, all right, guys, we'll do a couple more here. Let's do Taylor. You got a Google link for me? Let's check it out. Cowboys Lament. Let's go see what we got here. Google always takes a second to load. Hopefully it does load. If not, another one loaded up here. Okay. There we go. Really cool track. I mean, those vocals got me. I don't know if those are your vocals or if you're working with a vocalist, but beautiful vocals. Definitely add those to a lot more of your production music because that's pretty rare. You're really unique. I can already tell that's sort of your sonic signature thing, right? Assuming you didn't get that from some like loop splice thing. Hopefully you did create those yourselves because if you did, well done. Excellent work. I would lean more into that vocal direction for sure. When the drums came in, for sure, it's got a little bit of this kind of like epic rock, a little bit of maybe sports rock is that could be worked for. It's a little bit on the slower side. I find that if you're going to get into the rock world, a little bit more intense stuff like that, you want to go more up tempo, slower, kind of dramatic rock. I just in my career hasn't done that well for me. I don't know a lot of producers that do a lot of placements with slower, dramatic, kind of melancholy sounding rock. But if you want to go into sports, you want to go into maybe trailer music, something especially with these vocals up the tempo for sure. You want to do something a little bit more energetic than this. But I think the sonic quality here, or the sonic the instruments you're using and what you're doing here certainly could be useful. I think maybe a little bit of restructuring. Feels like there's a lot of starts and stops in this. Like we kind of go somewhere and then we stop. And then we start a little bit, then we stop, right? A little bit too much of this foot on the gas pedal, break, foot on the gas pedal, break. So we probably want to create a little bit more of like a continuous build up with the track. And it's so basically maybe you have first half of the track is just building, 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 and then you have a little, edit point that could be part of the structure, and then you have a B section where you build that up all the way up until the very end. But let me see if I can hear a little bit more here. Yeah, really cool, intense. You got a lot of skills here. You got the rock thing, you got the riff, you got the vocals, really cool stuff. What I would say is you, for sure, in February should be spending a lot of time listening to reference tracks because you have so much talent to offer. You have so many skills to offer, but it's a little all over the place right now. And I think if you go listen to a library, if you have your 3 to 5 that specifically focus on sports, I think you should definitely look into the sports world and try to find some libraries that you feel you could partner with. Type in sports rock or just rock in their catalog and listen to the tempo, again, the instruments, how they're structuring their tracks, all the things we talked about today. Because I think if you just focused your talents in that direction, you would create some unbelievably undeniable sync music. So like it's like you got all the building pieces, but now you got to execute it properly, which just means you have to kind of follow in line essentially with those reference tracks. So really, really good stuff though. I don't have a lot of notes for you other than you listening to more of that kind of stuff, you fall in line with what they're doing, and you're going to be in a really, really strong position. So, well done. All right, let's go randomly. Let's do Paul. Here we go. Let's see what we got here. I am not a fan of the Google, guys. Sorry. It just always takes forever to load, and when I pause it, it always has issues. Really interesting track here, Paul. Really cool. Has this classic orchestral kind of approach to it, but there's an EDM drum in it, right? There's an electronic drum driving the whole thing. Boom, 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 boom. That kind of lost the focus for me because I don't know exactly if a library would want all these classic, great sounding orchestral instruments in there and then have just out of the blue an EDM sounding kick drum kind of pushing things forward. So that's where there might be a little bit of a refocus for you. Maybe you just swap that out for more of an orchestral sounding drum, like a big bass drum, something that you would hear kind of an orchestra. Or maybe you don't necessarily need a big bass drum like that at all. But I would definitely say classical orchestral production music is where you want to probably focus and look into because it's really cool. It's well written. I think there is some obvious great opportunity for this type of music. Off the top of my head, I'm not exactly sure how it's structured or how they put this stuff together. It's just not in my wheelhouse at all. But if you go type that in, classical, orchestral production music in your 3 to 5 libraries, hopefully you could find some great reference tracks to emulate. But just keep that in mind that if you're going to go into the classical, we want it to sound like it's just got class. It's from another era. It kind of brings you back to a different point of view. Throwing in an EDM track in there, or a kick rather, is probably sort of getting you a little bit out of the focus zone that you really want to be in. So, but really well done, like well crafted. I can tell you got some great skills with that one. So really keep that up. Really great. All right, we'll do a couple more, guys. I can feel my brain starting to melt down on me. So, Mark, let's check out one of your tracks here, man. Rivers, here we go. Okay, so Mark, this one beautifully crafted. Love where you're going with it. I get it. The issue with this already, I can tell you though, is you're putting together score music and hoping to put this in a production music library. I'll just tell you, tough love moment. They're not going to accept score music essentially like this. Okay, if you got hired by a composer, sorry, director or a producer of a movie or something like that, they might actually want to, use your music and they might hire you directly. Production music libraries are not going to be getting these kinds of gigs for this type of music. So for you, obviously, orchestral, classical, orchestral orchestration is really where you probably want to shine and focus on. You would also, this is why we do this. This is why I'm giving you guys this kind of step-by-step plan for 2025. You would definitely need to fall in line with exactly what types of orchestral, classical music would a production music library, let's say like Extreme Music, carry in their catalog if that's where you want to eventually end up or whatever your libraries are. Okay. So just make sure if this is the approach you want to go with, maybe sync and working with production music libraries, at least in the approach that I'm coaching you guys on, it's probably not going to work out that great because they're just not going to be able to use this kind of music. It's beautifully crafted, again, not to attack your skills or your talents there, but it's just sort of the wrong fit for this side of the industry. So you want to go more probably either you go into trailer music, right? Bigger, epic. You want to go into smaller, minimal tension music. You can do that. Dramedy. Dramedy is kind of like the funny, quirky, more staccato, punchy, short kinds of music. That could be another direction, but there's going to be specific little places that you might find your skills can lend itself to. This style of music just won't. You just won't really find a lot of libraries that are going to carry this or are going to accept it. So I just want to make sure you're very clear on that. Okay, Mark? But thank you for pitching and being open to feedback. Do appreciate that. And let's do two more, guys. Matt, you'll be the second to last, and I'll do one lucky last one. And then I'll have to hop up today. So let's take a listen to Sync Song 2. So another great case where talent is there, you got all the skill sets, you got the abilities to be able to bring some really high quality music. I love the sonic quality here, the mix, the master. But this is a little bit on the slow side, right? This is kind of like a little dreary sounding, a little bit sad sounding. You're going to find in most productions, they're not going to be able to have a lot of placements potential for these kind of slower, dramatic, sad sounding. And again, these long strings that are on the top, those kinds of things we usually want to stay away from for the vast majority. There might be some instances where some slow, romantic, or sad, depressing, orchestral tension music might be useful, and you definitely want to serve a client that's looking for that or a library that wants that. But I'm just telling you, you turn on your TV, do your own research. You don't take my word for it. Go watch TV right now today. Go stream something, and you take a listen to what you're hearing. For the vast majority, I think it's like 80% mid to up tempo, and that's usually because getting people engaged, excited, motivated, on the edge of their seat, whatever it is, that's usually the emotion that most productions are going to be looking for. There's going to be the occasional sad show. There's going to be the occasional sad scene. They're going to need something like this, of course. You can certainly get placements this way. But I always try to steer you guys in the direction that I went with my career, which was to focus on where most of the placements happen, all right? And the most, the genres that I feel are the most licensable, and the tempos essentially, and the energies and the moods that I feel are most licensable. So you've got the skills and the talents. That's obvious. Now it's just a matter about, again, listening to a lot of minimal or tension, orchestral music, whatever it is you want to kind of fit into, and go in that direction. And definitely, we need to think about our track titles. We spend so much time in our studios, guys, making high quality music and focusing on the, is this snare better? Is that better? Is this transition working? Is this sting ending the best? Is this master as loud as it gets? And then we just kind of bounce it and just call it whatever anonymous track name. Your track name is doing the most heavy lifting for your marketing before anybody hears any of that hard work you put onto your track, right? You have, let's say, a week's worth of effort in your track. Well, if the track title is Sync Song 2, it doesn't really do any heavy lifting for you. It doesn't invoke curiosity. It doesn't get you guys or your clients or a library or somebody you're pitching it to. And again, Matt, maybe you just haven't named it yet. That's totally cool. Not to mean to pick on you, but it's just something to really exemplify that you got to make sure that you are not wrapping your awesome, amazing cereal with a brown paper bag and thinking that's going to do anything for it. You got to put the animal and the cartoon characters on it and the bright rainbow colors, and you got to get that kid to go, mama, I want that cereal, right? You got to do that for your sync track to make sure that you are really properly marketing it with your track title of something that really gets people get their juices flowing. I'll give you guys maybe another presentation. We've done it a few times, but we can kind of build that into sync focus as well. All right, and last one, but not least, let's check out, who should I do? Nate, you'll be the last one, buddy. Sorry, guys. I know I'm going to make some of you mad by not getting to your track. Like I said, I can only get to so many. If you guys want more feedback, I do have a service called Pro Feedback, and that's where you can get dedicated feedback from me and many pros that I have sort of personally brought onto the service. If you guys want to have this more consistently and you want to get into more detail with us, that's definitely something you guys, the link is in Sync Academy as well. I don't think I have it here on YouTube, but if you guys want more, there is more available for you guys if you want it. But I'll do as best as I can, obviously, with these Zoom calls. So I do apologize, but hopefully these reviews, even if you didn't get your track reviewed this time, can be insightful for what you can do with your track. So first off, let's take a listen, but we've got a 4-minute length. That's a bit long. So I'm going to tell you right off the bat, you're going to probably need to trim this no matter what we hear, but let's take a listen to a little bit of Through the Storm. Really unique track here. Like it a lot. It's got just this kind of unique, a little bit of world. Obviously, it's got the raw kind of big thing coming in here, some minimal tension to it. it's got a lot of stuff working for it, and that's kind of the problem, is it's got so much going for it that it's not really clear exactly where this would fit, at least in my mind at this point. So, and we also have these long notes, right? We've been talking about that all day today of having these long notes, bum, bum, these really, really long notes on the top that kind of weighs down the track. It's also a little bit on the slow kind of tempo. That can be an issue as well, but definitely a really interesting, unique kind of signature sound you've sort of come up with here. So I think you could use this sound and kind of direct it a little bit more in a more licensable direction. We listen to a little bit more. Yeah, so it's a little bit all over the place. So it's awesome. It's really cool. I definitely hear that you're going for this orchestral rock vibe, right? You got the rock instruments, you got the rock guitars, rock drums, but you want these orchestral elements on top. So that's your lane, orchestral rock. That should be the term that you type in to the 3 to 5 libraries that you really want to work with, or start with extreme music if you want to. It's kind of one of the starting places you can always go to. But you want to make sure you're following in line with what are accepted modern current libraries accepting with orchestral rock. I think what you're doing here, it's kind of got this magical, whimsical feel while having this like rock intensity to it, and that's splitting this up into 2 different directions at once, and that's what might not make this licensable. So you might want to spend a little bit more time either going all the 100% into that more whimsical place, that whimsical direction, which I hear a little bit with this kind of flute at the very end, or just go into more dark, intense, aggressive energy with the rock orchestral stuff. That could be really, really great for trailers. It could be really great for sports as well. So go check out essentially what these libraries are containing, what they're doing, and I'll be happy. And I think you'll find some great results that way. So, but really cool stuff. I appreciate you sharing your music with us, man. All right, so that'll be the last one for today. If you guys have other questions, go ahead and pop them in the chat here, in the Zoom chat, and I will be happy to answer them. Go ahead and stop the share here. You guys can see me. I'll make myself a little bit bigger, but don't worry, guys. I will re-upload the full recording of this because, as I know, the audio didn't work out well. Sharing my audio through OB or through Zoom, I always know that's always an issue. So that's what the issue was. It wasn't my speakers. It's nothing like that. I always play music through these speakers and I live stream, but because I have an audio gate that prevents that from bleeding through. But it is a Zoom issue. I'm very, very confident of that. I've had it for a long time. I do not know how to fix it. I've tried so many different things and it doesn't. So, questions, guys. Those of you that are in the Zoom call, we still got 37 of you guys. Anything that we didn't check on? Cedric says he checked out, or he searched metal hip hop on Extreme, couldn't find anything. Okay, if they don't have metal hip hop, that means that that particular library probably doesn't have any demand for it. So that's not a library. If you wanted to do metal hip hop, that you would want to probably pitch to. Just because you don't see a particular style, it doesn't mean that there's a niche or a need or an opening for you to go serve them. More than likely, chances are they just don't have a need for that style of music with their clients. So I would not submit music to a library if they currently don't have at least a couple of albums in that particular style, right? You want to look for some proof that they've actually been using that type of music with their clients. No questions? Everything was answered. I answered every single question. I know I didn't. I know that listen acronym and my reference track analysis was not my best, and I probably need to do another full analysis. I think what would be better is if I just recorded a video and probably listened to a track beforehand and then did a full analysis using that acronym. I think that's what I need to do as maybe one of my February YouTube videos, because I know I can do a much better job than I did. Lesson learned. I think, hosting a Zoom call, doing a live YouTube thing, and also trying to be instructional with that is just a little bit too much for me, especially after a couple of days of feeling sick. So I think I overwhelmed myself a little bit. So hopefully something in there was useful for you guys, but yeah, I won't get it twisted. I know I can do better than that. Sorry. If I find a library with, this is from, okay, let's see, hold on, I'm losing my chat here. If I find a library with quite a lot of rock tracks, would it make sense to pitch to them, or should I look for libraries with not so many? Well, quite a lot. It depends. It's okay if they have a lot, but if you are pitching to them, you would want to create something that's useful for what they particularly pitch to, but also creates a little bit of a unique niche for yourself. So not just sounding just like every other rock track that they already have. Probably don't need that. But if they have some good amount of rock music, they probably get a lot of rock placements. That's why they keep asking their composers to get more. So it could be a great sign that you send music to them, but you don't want to sound just like what you're hearing there. You want to create a little bit of a twist, something that creates your own, unique style or sonic brand. That's what we're going to definitely talk about moving into March. That'll be the kind of topic there. So. No, and Brian's asking, would I ever use AI vocals out on YouTube with original music? No. If you talk about the AI vocals where you put in your lyrics or you sing it and you transfer it to an AI model, some libraries might be okay with that. But these days, AI is kind of like a dirty word with production music libraries. And so I would just steer clear of it. I would just work with human beings. Most libraries are starting to, in fact, market themselves to the TV and film world as we are 100% human created. No AI music is here because there's this kind of bitter taste in the mouth, obviously, right now with generative AI companies scraping copyright protected works and creating profitable models on top of it that are cutting into the bottom line of human artists and producers on Spotify and other services like that. So I would stay away from anything. Most anything AI generated in terms of creating, content for your sync career. Thank you, Bodo, that this was insightful. Glad to hear that. Very cool. Thank you, Matt. Glad this was helpful. All right. Seems like we answered a lot. Um, Heaviosity vocal plugins. I'm not familiar with them, so I don't know if I can give you a helpful insight there. Sorry, Loop. Um, Cool. Boda realized you might try tension music. One of the tracks might be somewhat of a dramedy cue, so that's cool. Good to hear that. So, all right. Sounds like you guys got most of the answers figured out here, or at least you guys have something helpful today. So I appreciate that. I'll go ahead and stop the recording now and stop the streaming. And I will definitely post the replay in Sync Academy, and I will definitely probably take this live stream off immediately, and I'll re-upload the proper Zoom recording that'll have better audio for the tracks that we were reviewing and the ones that we reviewed today. So sorry, guys, in YouTube land. Appreciate you guys hanging out, but sorry that you didn't get the sort of top presentation quality that I usually try to give you guys. So, yeah, so you guys hang in there. We'll definitely let you guys know what we're doing next Monday, where we're gonna have a great high quality Stephen McDonald composer coming in, and you guys will get to ask him some questions about his experience of getting started and turning his music into full-time income with Sync. So you guys will get front row seats to that, especially if you're in Sync Academy. And if you guys are not in Sync Academy and you guys want to get access to these Zoom calls and be a little bit more active and maybe get your track reviewed, there's a link below. You can learn more about what we're doing here in Sync Academy for the entire year of 2025. So wish you guys all the best, all the great good vibes, energy vibes, motivation vibes for the week. And thank you so much for participating. And obviously to all of you guys in Sync Academy, thank you, particularly those of you that are being open and willing to share your music with us, allowing me to publicly review them. Hopefully I was constructive and not too critical and not, trying to be, I always try to be very sensitive to that you guys are putting your babies essentially out there for us to dissect and chop up. And that is not an easy thing to do. So I want to make sure you guys are very, you are acknowledged that we appreciate your openness to do that. And for all of us to get smarter and better at this as a result of you guys being open and being courageous to sharing your work and your music with us. So really great, beautiful music that we got to listen to today. It was really, really fun. So, all right, guys, that's what I got for you today. And we'll talk to you all real soon.